Welcome to the KayaCast, the podcast for cannabis businesses looking to launch, grow, and scale their operations.
I was looking at the network that you built, and I gotta say, I'm impressed, but also intimidated. I'm talking to a professional.
Yeah, don't be intimidated. I'm a regular guy and I make lots of mistakes. And you know what I say about mistakes, right? We're supposed to learn from our mistakes in our life. Has anybody ever said that to you, Tommy? You learn from your mistakes, right?
Hopefully.
I should have a freaking PhD now, okay? Because I haven't learned from my mistakes. I'm like the hamster in the wheel. I keep doing the same thing over and over again because I've been advised, do what you do best. I'm a talk show host and a teacher and a coach. Now, the teaching and coaching I've done for years. The coaching, I think I made something like maybe $2,500 total when I was a high school varsity coach in '99. And I was a soccer coach. And then everything else is just kind of any teaching I've done as like an adjunct instructor. And you don't make a lot of money for that, but I'm doing it again now. I'm back at Curry College, which is a school right outside of Boston, Massachusetts. Milton is where it's located. And it has one of the oldest communication curriculums in the country. I think in 1936 is when it started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I've taught there since 2009. I've taught the Introduction to Sportscasting on TV and Radio course since 2009. I do it every third year because it's always been in a rotation of concentration. And now they've started a sports concentration, but they didn't tell me that. It's a long, the weird story is I missed my first class because the only communique I had from the school was, oh, we're sorry, not enough people signed up for your course. We're not going to offer it this fall. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's too bad, you know? And then they call me the next day after I do it on Tuesday nights. So they call me on a Wednesday and say, oh, how come you weren't in class yesterday? I said, what are you talking about? The last communique I had from the college was, you canceled my course. And they said, oh, no, we have 14 people signed up. You know, can you do it next Tuesday? I'm like, yes, not only can I do it next Tuesday, but I'll be on campus tomorrow so that we can get me back into the system so that when you send something out to an email, I actually get it as opposed to when, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it was just a miscommunication at a communication school. Who knew, right? So anyway, I'm really happy about doing that because I really love sharing my experiences with young people. It really is the thing that drives me anyway. And now that I'm in this other industry, which I'm thinking you're going to talk a little bit about, I'm passionate about injustice and any unfair treatment by anyone. I mean, I just don't like, I just want people to get along, you know? And there's a lot of anger right now in the United States of America. I'm not sure you follow the news, but there's a lot of angry people out there. And we have a gun culture in this country, which is not something I support except for hunting and target shooting. So needless to say, I don't support people walking around packing and then getting angry and then using their weapon to express their anger. There are plenty of other ways to express your anger without causing bodily harm with a weapon.
Amen to that.
All right.
You have such an extensive background as a broadcaster in sports, and I love it when people come from I quote unquote traditional professions or traditional industries into our industry, and you bring a lot of knowledge in broadcasting to cannabis. What was the emphasis of starting pro cannabis media?
Well, again, let's go back to the first podcast I did in 2018. Then the next thing I know, people are calling me or they're being interviewed by me and they say, hey, you know, I've got a podcast. Next thing I know, I'm producing 5 shows a week. And I had all this content. So we started to put the content out onto over-the-top television services like Roku and Apple and Android and Fire Stick. Are you familiar with all those?
Yeah.
And there's a million of them. And I had enough content to live stream 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the reason why I had a lot of content was not only because I was able to do my own podcast and have others share what they want to do, but I did during the pandemic, everybody went home and learned how to use Zoom, right? Because they needed to communicate with people. So I was told by my life partner at the time, no, I couldn't stay home. You have an office, go to your office every day. And I'm like, okay, there's no one in my office. It was a single office, and there were only 2 people in the whole building. So I was practicing social distancing, and I was in my office every day. And I took the Zoom skill and I turned it into a news gathering tool and a content creative device, because as a talk show host, I could do that. And then I used my digital editing and figured out ways to add graphics to it, and what the gallery mode was versus the speaker mode and all this stuff that they offered. And now, I did Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the fall of 2020. So I did 6 hours of live interviews and talk about cannabis. And needless to say, that was a lot of content. And I learned quite a bit. And that's what we used to for content that we distributed on our network, which was PCM TV. And now we've rebranded to WPCM TV. I don't know if I'm backwards or forwards.
You're good.
Okay, so that WPCMTV.com is now replacing ProCannabisMedia.com because SEO doesn't like the word cannabis. and by the way, I hate censorship. I hate all social media. I really do. It's not fair. Our government, the United States government, gave social media companies the right to police themselves and hide behind the community guidelines, which means they censor content.
They do.
Okay? And anything that is a positive message about cannabis, they pull down. Now, I've never had my YouTube channel pulled down, and it's one of the reasons why I've been able to build it to 17,000 subscribers, or I think it's 16,787. And I hope you have a big reach, so everybody will go on to the either WPCM TV on YouTube or Pro Cannabis Media. They'll both show up in your search if you search those on YouTube. So, they never have. And by the way, I'm educating the public about the challenges of breaking the stigma and documenting the fight to end cannabis prohibition in our time. That's what we do every week with our news show, Cannabis Coast to Coast News, with Elena Pinto. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I have correspondents all over the country. I have one in Canada, Debbie Facey's in Canada, outside Toronto. And then I have one in the UK, Dave Barton. And so, I've got international correspondents and I've got domestic correspondents, and they're all doing the same thing. What was the most significant thing that happened in your state to fight prohibition of cannabis in your state? In under 2 minutes, on your phone, send it to me. I put it all together on Sunday. We release it at 9 a.m. on the website and on our live stream at 11 a.m., all Eastern time zone. And then we release the first 20 minutes on demand for Monday, the second 20 minutes on Tuesday. And usually I get an hour's worth in. We're talking about changing over our format a little bit and incorporating AI news delivered by AI avatars, I guess, in addition to the human element. So we're talking about switching things up a little bit and taking this hour-long show and turning it into 6 10-minute segments. And we'll see again, we haven't done it yet. We're talking about it, and we'll experiment over the next few weeks. But in the meantime, there's over 1,700 videos and interviews on my YouTube channel.
There's a lot. I was on there, and I was looking at some of the things that you posted up recently that I hope you maybe shed some light on. What is the status of cannabis in the U.S. federally?
24 states have adult use legalized it. So they have stores that are cannabis stores called dispensaries in those 24 states. You've got a whole nation up in Canada that's federally legalized it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was, by the way, it was October 17th in 2018, just in case these are the dates in my head. I have so much information in my head, it explodes. So those are the 24 legal adult use and sold. You can sell it legally, and it's tested, and you go to the store and you buy it, or you call in your order, or you go online or whatever you do, and you get it. There are another 16 states that have decriminalized it and have medical only programs. So you won't get arrested for having it on your person. But if you're in Idaho, you will. You get what I'm saying? So there's a disconnect between the federal law and each state's laws. That
Where
has caused a mess.
where do you think federally we're going?
No one knows. So there is definitely a movement to go from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, which are the Controlled Substances Act that was enacted in 1971. When I was growing up as a kid, I protested against Richard Nixon, who was a disgraced president who resigned in 1973. Okay. And he's the one who created the Controlled Substances Act that put heroin, LSD, and cannabis in a no medical uses level schedule on that Controlled Substances Act. That was in 1971. Okay. I can go into the history of why it was prohibited. It all is based on greed, racism, and the anti movement to counter the counterculture that was in place in the 60s and 70s in this country that I grew up and I was obviously influenced quite a bit. And I'm kind of a rebel when it comes to that. So if somebody said to do something and I didn't like it, I revolted against it. I rebelled against it. Just what I did. Sorry. I was lucky enough to have two loving parents who accepted me for being the rebel that I was. So that's what's going on in the United States. And yes, they're talking about rescheduling, they being the federal government. And if they take it from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, two things happen. One is they finally recognize that this plant medicine has medicinal qualities. Okay, I can't tell you how many people that I've interviewed that have said cannabis has saved my life, cannabis has changed my life. Crohn's disease, epilepsy, autism, PTSD, I get chronic pain, quite a few other things too. So the point is, it has medicinal qualities. And our current president, okay, under his first administration, somehow or other got Farm Bill in 2018 passed, which the federal government basically defined what legal cannabis sativa, the plant, that's the name of the plant, and they call it hemp. So if they have the cannabis sativa plant and you grow it and you only have 0.3% THC, which is the intoxicating cannabinoid in the plant that gets you high, okay, and it's only 0.3%, then it's a legal product to grow and sell. And that's the hemp industry. Now what you're finding is our scientists and our researchers have figured out a way to actually take the hemp-derived product and put it into beverages, roll it up into papers. You can get hot. You can get a little baby high from hemp. That's not the legal. That is the legal federal definition of that product. Okay. In the meantime, you have an overregulated cannabis industry, and that's the one that has all the dispensaries open and the testing and the taxes, and the government loves to tax cannabis all the time, and they're basically taxing it out of existence. And if the plant goes from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, that tax code goes away. Right now, businesses in the cannabis or related cannabis businesses, like a media company like mine, or was anyway, we are considered cannabis-related businesses. Therefore, we cannot write off the same business taxes that every other industry in the country enjoys. So unfair, unjust, okay? And yet still existing in this country until they take it from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3. It does not legalize the plant. It still would be a controlled substance, which, needless to say, the industry would much rather have it be regulated by either the alcohol group or the tobacco group or themselves. Because why not have the industry that knows the plant better than the government does, obviously, because they had no idea what they were doing. They basically opened a Pandora's box. And now you have an underregulated hemp industry that's about a $38 billion industry in the United States. And you have an overregulated cannabis business industry that is another $36 billion annually.
There's a
Okay?
lot of concerns that people have with rescheduling to Schedule 3.
In the industry, correct, they
Yeah.
do. Yes. But they would really like to have it to get rid of that 280E tax clause. That's the first thing that would happen. And every single person in the industry said, well, it's not great, but it's better than it was. And more importantly, even the guys at NORML that I know, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, said if they take it off Schedule 1 and understand that there are medicinal elements to this plant, that's a huge win for the industry. And what happened when President Trump released a public service announcement video, posted it on his Truth Social platform? The stock market went nuts because it was the first time any positive message about this plant, and it was really only talking about the CBD, the cannabidiol, which is another cannabinoid in this plant. There's hundreds of them. You know, THC is everybody, oh, that's the intoxicating one. Right, but there's CBN and there's CBD and there's CBG. And I mean, forget about it. You need a chemist degree to understand all the differences. But the point is, it would at least give credibility to the industry that they're involved with a medicinal product, something that can improve people's lives. And that video that was produced by a group called the Commonwealth Project was really a public service announcement. And trust me, if I did a public service announcement and I shared it with my old friends in traditional television media, we're not touching that. We can't do that. You know, especially like an NBC Universal, they're a international company. They don't want to get there. They don't want to get fined. They don't want to go against what the FCC offers them. You know, they have to apply for a license every year. So it's really a mess. And oh, did you know that the government shut down a couple of weeks ago? And I mean, like, it is so bad, this two-party system that we have in this country, because if I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican, anything you say is going to be opposite from what Republicans, oh, I don't want to do that because I'm a Democrat. Democrats, oh, I don't want to do that because I'm a Republican. There's no way to run a country. It just isn't.
Yeah.
It's all special interests, and it's all about money, money, money. Money is the greatest drug, the biggest drug that nobody knows it is, because the greed that evolves when you start making money is dangerous.
Yeah, no, it really is. And there's so much to navigate as a cannabis business owner today
Mm-hmm.
than yesterday. You have state regulation. Nobody knows what's happening federally. To your point, though, if we do reschedule, there will be a lot of businesses there'll be an injection of cash, let's just say, in the
Correct.
industry, which is good.
Well,
From a medical perspective, you're in this industry, you talk to a lot of people. What are the concerns that people have on rescheduling to 3?
Well, first of all, it'll still be an illegal substance in that it will not be legalized, but it will be a controlled legal substance. There's a drug, I don't know if you're familiar with anabolic steroids or codeine. Those are two drugs that are on Schedule 3. Now, basically, I'm pretty sure that if it goes Schedule 3, if you have it on you, they're not going to arrest you for possession on a federal charge. But if you're in a state like Idaho that still has it totally illegal, you will get arrested or you'll get a major fine, like a $500 ticket. Yeah. So again, there is a disconnect between whatever happens at the federal level and at the state level in this country. And I've been fortunate to have grown up in New England, in the Massachusetts area. I lived 11 years in Maine when I worked at the CBS affiliate in Portland. But I've always been in relatively friendly states who have decriminalized it. And that's usually the first step. They decriminalize it because they do recognize it has medicinal qualities. And we go back to that PSA, and the president's messaging in that, or at least the messaging that he approved enough that he posted this video, was this can help seniors in this country with their chronic pain, with their trouble sleeping. Basically saying CBD, a non-intoxicating cannabinoid, has a lot of medical uses, and it can improve seniors' lives. That's pretty much what that message was. And if you have not seen it, by the way, my channel, I did a special report. I showed the whole video. I courtesy the people that produced it, and I basically set it up 45 seconds, played the 3-minute video, and then I tagged it out in another 45 seconds explaining what I think the impact of this video will have. And needless to say, the next day, the stock market went nuts. And everybody starts recognizing, talking about, oh my God, this is a good sign. Maybe they will be rescheduling it after all, because there's been an awful lot of infighting between the hemp side of the plant and the cannabis Delta 9 side of the plant. So, which is not a good thing.
No, no, not at all. So, do you know where I guess the DEA or where the government's leaning
You
towards?
mentioned the DEA does not want to deal with cannabis. Okay, they've done everything they possibly can to delay. Our government's very good at delaying, and not make a decision on the rescheduling. And then 3 months ago, where am I now? October, July, I think. The DEA petitioned the Health and Human Services Department to move psilocybin, a hallucinogenic psychedelic plant, to Schedule 3, because they do recognize that that plant has medicinal qualities, but they're still fighting the cannabis. Okay. And by the way, I mean, I even said it on my newscast, it's a harder drug. I got some abuse for it. I'm like, guys, it's a harder drug. It's one of the reasons why I've never done it. I don't need to have hallucinogens. I don't need to have hallucinogens. I don't need to have psychedelics. Well, I can get plenty. I can use cannabis enough to get where I want to be, to manage the chronic pain that I live with on a daily basis. So
I was so hopeful when Robert Kennedy Jr.
Well, I loved his
joined.
dad. I don't love him.
Well, he campaigned on legalizing cannabis, and now he's the head of that freaking department.
And he hasn't done nothing, has he?
I was so hopeful that we'll get a push, but I guess internally there's just a lot of resistance.
And well, also there is, well, first of all,
Machine is
there's
just
more
hard
money.
to turn.
There's more money in big pharma and the substance abuse community than there is in the pro-cannabis community.
Yeah.
Okay. And the 4 biggest companies in the United States, the biggest multi-state operators, Trulieve, Cresco Labs, Curaleaf, did I say Curaleaf? And Green Thumb, pretty sure those are the biggest 4. They were valued at $37 billion combined in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
They're now total value $4 billion in 2 years. And
There was a bubble.
And there's no capital moving into cannabis because of the unknown by the government, because they're just they're just delay, and then we'll shut it down. You know what? What both sides need to do is have a session. Do you know what I mean by a session?
Yeah.
Pass the peace pipe, because guess what? The peace pipe was used in our country when the Pilgrims got here back in the day in it was 16th century. Okay, and what do you think was in the peace pipe? What do you think the medicine man had in his? What do you think they were using? It was a plant medicine then. It should be now. Here's a great stat for you. I use this for all those prohibitionists out there. If you went into a doctor's office today and they had on their wall their medical school diploma from Harvard Med, Yale Med, NYU Med, or the University of Pennsylvania's medical school, the 4 oldest medical schools in the country, from 1900 to 1906, graduates of those medical schools wrote 5 million prescriptions for cannabis.
Oh, wow.
So how did it get vilified in 1937 with the Tax Act and prohibited? Greed. And the old white man with that money wanted to keep the Jim Crow South, the segregated South, segregated. They also they feared the use of hemp in manufacturing, which would have been a hell of a lot more healthy for our world. And it also would have cut down on the amount of cancer that we have to this day. And that's not me talking. I got that from doctors that understand the endocannabinoid system, that understand the system in all mammals that this plant interacts with. So those are my big spiels. You got me going. I
I feel that frustration. I feel like everybody that's rational feels the exact same frustration. Now, we don't have that in Canada. It's legal in Canada, but definitely in the US, there's just a lot of problems keeping it contained within state.
Well, you can't bring it from state to state.
Yeah.
That's illegal. Okay. Wink, wink. Like it hasn't been moved from California to the rest of the country for the last 30, 40 years. I mean, the fact that our lawmakers are still living in reefer madness world is absolutely bizarre to me. That reefer madness movie, which was a prohibitionist movie that vilified the plant, was promoted and supported from the money from Mr. DuPont, Mr. Hearst, Mr. Carnegie, and Mr. Mellon, who really were the money people that survived the stock market crash of 1929. And they put a racist in charge of the first Federal Narcotics Bureau. His name was Harry Anslinger, and he held that position, continuing to vilify cannabis from 1930 to 1962.
Oh, wow. It's a long time.
And there were two major government studies, research studies on cannabis during that tenure, and he debunked them all.
Yeah.
Oh, that they didn't do a control thing. They didn't do this. They don't understand how dangerous this plant is. And when I hear the people that say addicted to it, BS on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you get addicted to coffee a lot easier than you would to cannabis. And when I had bronchitis a couple of weeks ago, guess what? I stopped for 10 days. I didn't use it. I didn't even do my edibles. Nothing. I did nothing. I went, straight. Okay, tolerance break, whatever you want to call it. And I also took 10 years off in 1990 when my son was born for a lot of reasons, let's just say. I didn't want to raise that means my dinner's done. So anyway, but the point is, you can get off cannabis quicker than you can coffee.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, that's 100%. Cannabis takes forever to get out of your bloodstream. And
out of your bloodstream, yes. But you're not going to be intoxicated for the entire time that it's
no, but then that's an indication of how addictive it is. How fast a drug gets out of your bloodstream, the faster it does, the more addictive it is. So that's alcohol, for example. If you're an alcoholic, you need to drink. That withdrawal is gonna kill you.
That's right. No, and it's the most abused drug in our society today.
Yeah.
Here's and by the way, you can get it on. And when I hear people complain, there's a dispensary on every corner, I go, there's 4 times the amount of liquor stores in this country, and there are cannabis dispensaries, even in legal states. Okay, I think there's something like 343 licensed cannabis dispensaries in Massachusetts and over 1,100 liquor stores, or beer and wine, where you can get beer, wine, and liquor. I'm going to throw them all under the same boat because they're all alcohol based. Anyway, and by the way, I mean, I'm not going to tell you not to drink, and I'm not going to tell you that you have to use the product. No, it's not for everybody. I know a grower, a professional grower of cannabis, who's allergic to THC, and yet he's still employed in the industry, doing well because he grows very good cannabis sativa. That's the plants. So, a lot of people just live in the past, and they grew up in the DARE generation, which is drug awareness, resistance, education. Boy, see that? But I still can get back into my brain. I usually have a 15-second delay when I have to remember stuff, but it's there. I don't know when it's going to change. I know one thing, it won't change until the government starts to work again.
Yeah. You're in a very unique position because you're so intimate with what's going on in the industry.
Well, it's because I read 40 newsletters a week, and I curate the content to find the most interesting stuff and then produce a TV-style newscast. By the way, I've been in the newsroom for 30 years. I kind of understand how to do that. Now, my newscast it looks like it was produced in the 1990s. I get it. But you know what? Nobody's doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And they're starting to emulate it in short bits, but we're going to make it. We're going to adapt, and instead of an hour-long show, we'll create 6 to 10 10-minute segments. That's how it's going to work. And each segment will have 2 different states in it. We'll have an international report. We'll have federal reform report, and everything will be like 10 minutes, and it'll be available on demand, which is what the way you do it now. Shorts and people's attention spans are 7 seconds. So we lost our audience a long time ago.
Well, nowadays it's just short.
Right.
Or clips, the 50-second clips get the most views,
Of course.
and you get less and less as you tack on minutes. I want to talk a little bit about 2025. We're in the fourth quarter. When you look back at this year, what are some of the big news headlines that come across your mind? Like, what are some milestones that we hit this year
In news, is that what you're talking about? All
in,
news?
in cannabis?
Oh, in cannabis. Well, let's see. Certainly the release of that PSA was huge. Okay. Really, I still go back to that because that has never happened before. We've never seen a president of the United States. By the way, I can't believe that we actually had two presidential candidates talking about it openly. That alone was amazing in 2024. Now, in the last year, I would have to say, let's see, I'd have to go back into my lead stories. It's really been watching the government delay the rescheduling process. And then you have the anti-cannabis movement, SAM, Smart Approaches to Marijuana, and a guy named Dr. Kevin Sabet, who is a horrible human being. He coined the phrase cannabis use disorder. In other words, anybody who uses it, you have a disorder because you're using it. I'm like, ridiculous to say something like that, especially if he has a medical degree. I think he's a PhD, not an M, but that's okay. Point is, the fact that he has access to our government to poison the lawmakers with his agenda and not the industry's agenda, it's not healthy. So those are some of the big, but it's really about the descheduling. Nothing's going to happen until that. Anything else? Right off the top of my head, I'm trying to remember all the different leads, but it has to do with the president's inner circle and who's in it and who's whispering in his ear, and meanwhile, his approval rating's going down. And I'm the one who kept saying, but his ego's going. And as soon as his ego realizes that he can change that by being a cannabis hero, I mean, look, he's already stopped one war. I give him credit for that. I really do. I do. I'd like to see him stop the other war in Ukraine and Russia. That'd be great. And I'd also like to see him at least decriminalize cannabis federally. Open the banks and take it off Schedule 1. If it goes to Schedule 3, it's an improvement, but it's not what the industry really wants. They want it regulated. They're willing to work within the regulatory bodies, but it shouldn't be one that's already existing. It really shouldn't be. But again, there's a couple of bills that have been filed now, the States Act and the MORE Act, that would establish a legalized industry with interstate commerce and a federal tax on that. And there is a way to make it work. And there are some people in our Congress that are working on doing that. So,
okay. Well, that's good news.
Well,
From a state perspective, anything new happening with either states launching or moving towards legalization?
great question. And I have this, we have an unofficial contest. We call it the race to 25, right? Because you got 24 and you got 50 states. It would be nice to get half the states. It's just better than 24 out of 50 states, right? So Pennsylvania has a governor, Josh Shapiro, I'm pretty sure is his name. And he has gone on record saying, I want it legalized. I want adult use industry in our state of Pennsylvania. And because of this Republican Democrat thing, they can't get it passed. They can't come to an agreement because if it's your idea, I don't like it. No, it's your idea, I don't like it. That's not America.
So he doesn't have the Senate in that state to push it through?
Correct. Take your pick. It's either the Senate or the House. It's still the two-party system. It's screwed. Okay? You know what? I would love. Give me 5 minutes with these guys, and I will rip them and tell them, you should be ashamed of yourself taking the oath of representing your constituents. By the way, 70% of Americans want it legalized.
Well, you look at Mississippi; they had a vote, and a lot of people use
states. Alabama, take your pick. Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. They're all screwed up. Okay. I feel bad. And I know I'm probably people will hate me for it. It's the government. It's the old school way of thinking. There are too many old white men making decisions about the future of this country. They will not be around, okay, when the stuff that they're working on and basically delaying, and not making decisions. The fact that our veterans, the people that fight for democracy, the people that fight for the rights for freedom, cannot have access to the hospital that they're given access to for their PTSD is criminal to me. Criminal. It's horrible. The first guy who was in line for adult use legalization cannabis to buy is a guy named Stephen Mandilli. He was a veteran of the of Desert Storm. I think it was Desert. And he was ready to take his own life when his wife handed him a joint and said, before you do that, I recognize you have some trauma since you came back. Smoke this, see what happened. Smoke. And guess what? All of his symptoms of PTSD went away.
Oh, wow.
And now he goes before the Congress of the United States. He's been doing this for 10 years, and they haven't been able to move the needle. They're barely starting to move the needle now. And I go back to that PSA because the messaging was we need to educate our medical community about how to use the cannabinoids that are in this plant for positive medical work, for positivity.
I was thinking through. Well, I really wanted to talk to you about 2025, which we spoke about, where you think legally, federally, where we're at. Some states, what's going on with some states. I know Pennsylvania is always hot.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some states that have gone live that are just really rolling it through. Yeah. Are you familiar with what's going on right now? You've touched base about on the hemp industry. You have
Texas, for instance.
Texas, for instance, is... it's so big that they cannot, they can't reverse course. There's an industry there. There's billions of dollars to be had. What's going on?
And jobs, right?
What's going on in Texas, and how is the government reconciling
that? Well, the governor and the lieutenant governor are completely opposite in that state, and they couldn't agree on the lieutenant governor wanted to ban all hemp products, all THC infused products. Okay. And that would have put out a lot of people out of business and out of work. And it just doesn't make sense politically at all. So the governor used his executive powers to say, here are the regulations. Here's what we're going to do. And basically that's what's happening now in Texas. So he didn't ban them. He's just regulating them. And the fact that these products are not age gated, do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Okay. It blows me away. I don't know if you have a cough medical, you have a different health system in Canada, right? I mean, everybody has health care. Right? Mm-hmm. Ooh, what a novel thought. And they never card young people to buy hemp infused products, THC infused products at hemp stores, smoke shops, wherever they're available. Convenience stores, gas stations. They don't. It's absolutely the stupidest thing I've ever heard, because if you go into a drugstore in America, CVS or Walgreens, I think those are the two big ones because Rite Aid just closed their doors. You can't walk out of there with cough medicine, Robitussin, that has dextromethorphan in it. And guess what? That stuff gets you high. You can't walk out of the drugstore unless you're 21 with that product. So they're already doing it in drugstores, right? Why not do it in convenience stores? And I mean, it's just crazy to me. They card for alcohol, they card for cigarettes, tobacco cigarettes, but nothing. And they didn't understand what they were doing when the Farm Bill came along in 2018. And they figured, oh, no, we'll just control it by making it a definition, federal definition for 0.3%. And I love the fact that Mitch McConnell, who was the speaker, head of the Senate, actually admitted they screwed up. Yeah, that was one of the happiest days. That's a big thing for me, because that he was the villain. And then he said, all right, well, I want to give a crop to my old tobacco farmers who are starving in Kentucky. So let's give them another crop that they can make money on. We'll call it hemp, and we'll define it as 0.3% THC in dry weight. Then humans figured out a way to get high from 0.3%. You light it up.
Well,
You light
yeah,
it
you
up.
load it up, you concentrate it, and here we are, right? It's terrible. I know that because it's unregulated, there's a lot of product out there that's just not good for human consumption.
Well, again, I'd like to think that there'll be more testing regulation. See, I like the fact that
There's
I can.
no regulation on testing.
Well, no, what happens in testing is people bribe the testers to enhance their THC percentage because the consumers are clueless when they go into a dispensary and they always buy the highest percentage of THC. Well, guess what? It has more to do with the terpenes that dictate the power of the cannabinoids than it does the actual cannabinoid make. So, once again, education, education, education. But can I put public service announcements on mass media? No. Can't do that. It's a federally illegal substance. So, I mean, they have screwed this up so bad since 2018, and it is what it is. I do still think that when the president is ready, he will make his disciples in the ruling Republican Party, if you will, figure out a way to get it off Schedule 1, get it to Schedule 3, regulate it, and if he's really smart, he'll figure out a way to do interstate commerce too.
Yeah.
When you have states like Minnesota that's brand new, or Colorado, there's a glut of product in Colorado, so the prices went right down.
Mhm.
I think I heard $75 for a pound of weed in Colorado. That's crazy.
It's insane.
Crazy. But that's what happens when you have an enclosed state economy. There's no place to take the excess, and all they do is flood the market, so the prices collapse. And needless to say, that means businesses collapse. So I mean, they have messed this up so bad, it's amazing to me. And yet, at least I could go into a dispensary and buy it and drive out of there in a little brown paper bag. Either I put it in my glove box or in the trunk like you're supposed to. Wink, wink. And then enjoy it at home. And I've got to tell you, the other thing is that bothers me in media, especially whenever they do a story on cannabis, they always show the burning joint. That's 50% of the users now of every day. They still burn a joint or use a pipe or whatever. But that means another 50%, half the market, are using edible, tinctures, topicals, whatever works for them is what is being used, because there's still a lot of people out there who don't want to smoke it anymore.
Mhm. And nowadays, it's you have vapes. There's so many different ways to consume outside of smoking.
I tried the vape thing, and it wasn't the same intensity, and it was very convenient to have a vape pen in your pocket, and you could just you could be at a restaurant, and you just.
Mm-hmm.
And it was too much. It was too easy. And you have to figure out what's going to work for you. We're in the biggest uncontrolled drug trial in history.
Yeah.
And we're all learning how to self-medicate. And everybody, it affects people differently because of our endocannabinoid system, which is explained in that video, again, that PSA. It's the system that's controlled by your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I love to educate people. That's what really drives me, whatever it is, in speech, communication, sports, society, parenting, and of course, cannabis too.
Jimmy, before I know you have dinner, before I let you go, where can our listeners find you?
They can. No, I'm only kidding. They can go to our website, which is WPCMTV.com. We always post the most recent news and one-on-one interviews on the homepage, so it's really easy to find. Same thing with YouTube. All of our stuff's on YouTube. I'm also on LinkedIn. So that's really how they do it. And if you do want to contact me direct, I don't have any problem if you just email me at Jimmy, Jammy, at procannabismedia.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jimmy, for joining me today.
No, and thank you for inviting me on and letting me rant and rave for an hour.
No, this is awesome. Thank you. I just discovered you today, and I'm a huge fan, and
Thank you.
I can't wait till you come up with your well, I'm on your page. I'm gonna follow.
Well, I appreciate that, but go to school.com if you want to be a regular on my Monday show or ask me questions direct, whatever. That is what I'm trying to grow, that community, is
Mhm.
our school.com community. And the name of the community is the Young School of Communication. So,
The Young School Communication. Okay.
yeah, and school with a K, because it's
Yeah.
school.com with a K. And another reason why I like that URL, because in broadcasting and in speech, spelling doesn't count. It's how you pronounce the word and how you enunciate. Are you speaking clearly? Are you changing your inflection points or even the rhythm of your delivery? And that's the curriculum that I call EPIC, EPIC. And all the kids
Oh.
and all the kids in my recovery class, they know every quiz. I say it's worth 40 points, one word and the definition of each word. What does it mean? How do I drill it into these kids? I know they hate it, and I don't care because I told them, I said, look, you're in college. You should be able to memorize 4 words with 4 definitions. And more importantly, if you want to go into any kind of public speaking or broadcasting or lawyering or teaching, anything you need to use your voice, even politics, I can teach you how to be a more effective talker.
Mhm.
And
It's so valuable. It's so valuable.
right.
I'm gonna definitely check you out.
Appreciate that. I hope you'll take or at least look at what I'm doing on Monday nights. Come on in.
No, definitely. I will.
All right, Tony. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thanks for listening to the KayaCast podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast in your favorite podcast app or visit our website to access the full archive of episodes from the show.